The development of the printing press led to a huge explosion in technology and communication and collaboration in society. But one of the things that I don't think people think about enough compared to that explosion of possibility was how it contracted how we think and how we use and share ideas. Because thanks to the printing press, people started putting ideas in a linear format where you would print your ideas into a book, one after the other, after the other, after the other. This essentially cements these different concepts into a concrete linear order. Now, you as an author of a book or a reader of a book might appreciate that order and think that it's a good one and that it makes sense that concepts should come one after another. But what if there was so much more potential in the concept itself outside of the structure that it was placed in? What if an individual concept had life and had energy and had potential on its own if it was taken out of that environment and given a way to express itself so much more freely? This is one of the limitations with the linear step-by-step nature of books as knowledge sharing technologies, because you're essentially at the mercy of the author of the book and the order that they decided to put the concept in. If there's a concept from chapter 9 that you think would go really well in chapter 1, you have to flick through the entire book, bring them out and put them together. So what if there was a so much more flexible way of consuming books, or a much more flexible way of consuming linear information sources that allowed you to take the concept from chapter 9 and view it as an equal concept next to chapter 1. Essentially, what if you could completely dissolve the limitations of time itself and hold information in this 3D realm where there was no before and after, and everything had the capacity and ability to connect equally and evenly with everything else in the body of knowledge? This is an idea that I've been interested in for many years now, and it's what actually drew me to a platform like you see here, which is Obsidian. A couple of years ago, I got really into building second brains, and this book, Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte, goes into everything about what that means and how you can build an external knowledge base outside of yourself using a platform like this. But there was something about Obsidian that just captivated me, and it was this ability to take what is actually just a normal document, and each of these blue links here is now represented on the graph as one of these nodes. And so these are the two different formats that we can look at information in. Either you've got information in this linear way, and I'm not saying that this isn't useful. This is clearly useful. You know, it's good to have a story and it's good to have things in order and for things to make sense. What I'm saying is that I think there's an opportunity now for a new revolution in how we consume information in a non-linear way. And when you expand out and take the individual concepts and allow them to exist evenly and equally, that's such a useful secondary view. And that view can allow you an exponential increase in the way that you understand and make use of the information. And I keep coming back to this book, Power versus Force, but this is what David Hawkins is talking about. He's talking about how linear compression of information is less energetically powerful, but an exponential, open, non-resistant allowing of energy to express itself, of concepts to express itself, has so much more potential. And we can see that here in this graph, how much more potential is there for connection, for discovery, for novelty from this version of the information compared to this version of the information. And so that was always just so interesting to me, because you can see, hey, I can actually link this node to another concept, And the idea of building out a content vault where my ideas could express themselves, they could fly off the pages and they could connect with other books, and I'd be able to make counterintuitive and interesting connections and discoveries that the author hadn't made. I felt like I was exploring like an explorer and discovering new territory and connecting new ideas, and that this would lead to groundbreaking scientific or knowledge-based discoveries. However, I always had a problem with platforms like Obsidian, and the problem was that I had to manually go in and make the links myself. Every single note, I had to personally write these brackets around it to kind of make sure it became a node. And I was like, well, who am I to dictate the nodes? This was another limitation in the nature of Obsidian as well, because this is me putting my ideas on top of Obsidian about what a node is. So I was thinking, what if the nodes could themselves actually emerge from the document? What if just putting a document into something like Obsidian, the knowledge graph could spawn itself based on what it thought the most important and weighted concepts were? And so that's a journey I spent the next few years thinking about and working on. Now, I've got a mentor who's made over 400 hours of video content, And I was always frustrated by the way that I had to watch these videos because it was just like reading a book. I had to watch it minute by minute by minute, and it was concept by concept by concept. But I could just intuitively feel that there was so much more potential in these concepts and in the ideas that he was sharing. And I just knew I needed a better interface in order to allow those ideas to express themselves. And that's why I was so excited when I discovered Claude Code and the power that AI had to build applications, because I finally realized that the technology was now there to allow someone like me who didn't have an ability to code to actually bring a custom knowledge graph platform to life in the way that I just described. And that's why over the last 2 weeks, I've put a huge amount of attention into building and developing this application that allows me to extract and get so much more potential out of this content. So let me show you how this works and what's so exciting to me about it, because it's working so well, and this is really just such a minimum viable product at the moment. So on the right here, we've got the actual content itself. Now in the past, obviously the only way to really watch videos was 1 minute at a time. But with the knowledge graph, what's so exciting is that we can actually see the individual concept that's being talked about right now in the content, and you can see where it is in the knowledge graph and how it relates to the other concepts. So right now, what's being discussed is this concept of internal rules, and you can see that being lit up. You can click on it, you can see a extracted definition, and you can even see all the other videos in the knowledge base where it connects. The way I think about this knowledge graph is it's basically like a visual representation of the transcript, because the transcript tracks us through the words, but the knowledge graph tracks us through the actual shape of the content. And so each time a new concept is discovered, there we go, we've just shifted to a new concept. I just moved half an hour later, and now we're talking about something else. And this shows that you can actually track the journey, not only through the words, but also through the concepts, because these are concepts from over 400 different videos. And I can now see how the concept that's being talked about right now is connected to the whole. And so this is now so much more of an engaging learning journey through the content, because I've got a map, I've got context, I know where I am on the journey, I know what needs to be covered. I know what I've already covered. I can see the territory in front of me rather than going into a course blind and not knowing and feeling stuck along this rigid linear pathway. There's so much more flexibility and options here. And I think that this way of learning maps onto the way that humans actually learn so much more effectively. I think that we really think in this way where we connect ideas that aren't otherwise connected. You know, books kind of force us to think in a way that feels unnatural. We really have to train ourselves to read. But human potential is so much more creative, it's so much more flexible. We make so many more connections than books allow. And so this kind of knowledge graph interface allows you to start learning in a way that's so much more natural and intuitive. And when you remove friction from the learning process in that way, how much more bandwidth and attention do you have to actually dedicate to your learning process? So I think this unlocks huge amounts of efficiency for students and learners as well, because it allows you to learn in the way that's actually native to what feels comfortable for your brain. You don't have to put effort into going through this friction-based process. So one of the things that's really exciting about this technology and this knowledge graph is that I didn't build this. This knowledge graph emerged on its own completely naturally from the content. It wasn't me who went in and created and labeled all these concepts. These are the concepts which the algorithm has decided are the most important concepts to have their own node. And so I've really given the content here an actual life of its own. It's allowed to express itself. It's allowed the concepts which are most heavy, most weighted to surface, and everything else has fallen down. And so there's actually genuine new patterns in here that I haven't seen before. There's new concepts that I hadn't connected before, and things which I didn't think were so important actually turn out to be very important. And we can even go here to the map view where you can see the kind of hierarchy of information. And this is super cool to be able to see which pieces of information are weighted as incredibly important and which pieces of information have little connection. So the first step in building a graph like this was taking these videos and turning them into something that an algorithm could actually understand. The most easy way to do that in the beginning is with text. So I ran all 400 hours of the content through an accurate transcription service that turned it into accurate speaker-labeled text documents. And then once we had those documents, they then became the source of truth that we could run the next algorithm on. One of the important principles to think about here is garbage in is garbage out. So it's really important to transcribe the highest quality audio files you can with the most powerful transcription model that you can find, because having that high quality transcription is the foundation of the accuracy of everything that emerges and is built on top of it. That's why I use the latest transcription model from Assembly AI, which is the Universal 3 Pro, to transcribe all of this content so we can have the most accurate foundation for this project. Once the transcript is created, we segment it into different conceptual units or thought units. And then those units are analyzed to understand how similar they are. And we cluster different thought units together that are similar, even if they're from completely different videos. And so you can have one video recorded 3 years ago and one video recorded today. And if the same concept comes up, the algorithm will bring that concept together. And so it completely transcends the limitations of time and the limitations of linear video. You can see trends over time. You can see concepts that keep coming up again and again, and you can make connections that you just wouldn't have been able to make without this type of technology. This is only the first version of this feature, but already in using it, I'm feeling like it's really amplifying my learning experience and giving me such a bigger insight into the actual concepts and ideas that are here. I can explore them live. I can see where in the graph the conversation is going. And it's just like having a new map and a new way to visualize the total body of information. It makes me feel like nothing is wasted because everything is contained within this closed loop ecosystem. I can see exactly what I've done, what's left, and I can ensure that all the energy I put into the learning process is captured and stored and sent back to me in some way. Really, this falls under a bigger theme, which I'm looking to explore and understand, which is the power that technology has to free us from imposed limitations. Something like this is incredibly flexible and powerful technology that allows brand new connections and brand new ideas to emerge that wouldn't have been found otherwise. It gives you so much more of an enjoyable and playful learning experience because you can actually see the points of leverage on your learning journey, and you can see which nodes you've ticked off and how close you are to those points of leverage and how important the particular topic that you're studying right now is and where it fits into the bigger whole. Because one of the things that always got in my way when I was having to read textbooks and stuff and learn in school is, how important is this? Like, I didn't have a map. Like, I couldn't figure out which chapter went where. And so if I could see the map of all of the chapters and everything that I needed for the exam in a format like this, I'd have been so much more motivated to actually study and learn the material because I could see exactly where I was on the learning pathway. And so just think about what this could do for the users of your content and how much more engaged and interested they might be in what you're saying and what you're teaching. I'm really excited about the potential this has to increase user retention on learning platforms, increase results for students who are learning, and just in general increase the overall enjoyableness, engagement, and fun of learning something new and seeing the impact demonstrated. Because one of the big components that makes something fun is the ability to see your impact visually. And a graph like this allows you to see and track your learning journey in a really visual and tangible way, not just tick video completed, but this is the path we traced through the graph today. These are the concepts that you covered, and this is the level of territory in this map that you've unlocked through the work that you did today. And that is satiating some kind of deep primal human need to explore, to adventure through software, and tapping into those biological circuits and connecting it with your own learning journey is such an exciting idea. Now, there are so many features planned with this. I mean, this is just the foundation of what's going to turn into a thriving ecosystem of augmented learning technology, and this is really that foundation, ground one layer that had to exist for everything else to be built. But I just wanted to share this to cement its existence for me, document it, and invite you to come along on the journey as I build this out. Now, if this is interesting for you, I'm sure you can figure it out based on what I've said in this video today. If not, then I'll be developing technology that allows you to implement features like this into your content and your material without needing to have any kind of technical coding background. And so subscribe if you want to see the future of this technology and how you might be able to use it for your own content. If enough people want a deep dive on how this is done so you can do it for yourself, then I'm happy to make a more technical video breaking down exactly how the algorithm works and how to implement it on your own knowledge base. So yeah, thanks for watching my breakdown on the limitations of books and videos and how we can use essentially AI and I don't even know what this is called, sorting algorithms to unlock brand new ways of displaying information that transcend linear time, material world constraints, and allow us to enter into a brand new spiritual dimension of playful exploration. Godspeed.